guys, today we're going to take you along with how we introduce a new horse to our herd. So we're a boutique boarding facility, and this is what kind of sets us apart from other stables, but it's something that you can do at home when you bring a new horse into your herd. So sometimes people will just, throw their horse out, and yeah, absolutely, they are going to eventually find their new hierarchy and sort themselves out, but we found a really great way to do that on a more gentle basis that's probably easier on their guts as they're a little bit anxious. And a lot more easier on their hides. We don't have horses being nicked or kicked or things like that. So we're going to give you a little tour of what we do and how we do it. So this is our introduction pen. We actually have two, so we can intake two horses at a time where they would both be separated by a fence or a gate. So we have two 20 by 40 foot pens so they can get a nice lope going on. We have our insulated water, so we don't have the automatic waters in these pens. We just use them as needed, so they each have their own water. And as you can see, really high fences. We've got 5-foot fences so nobody can jump over them while they're getting used to their new family. So in addition to feeding horses after a couple days on a shared fence line, you also want to make sure that your new horse has some respite, that they can get away from that herd and kind of take some of their pressure off. So we have a neutral fence line that we would feed primarily the most amount of the horses hay over here, that they can come and kind of get away, have a little break from these new friends they're trying to get used to, and as well any feed or grain that we're feeding them, we're going to hang it on a neutral fence line so they're not bothered by the perimeter fences and other horses trying to get their snacks. We get into that 5, 7, 10 day range. Each horse is an individual, and that's when you're going to start to use your intuition and decide when it's ready to turn that horse out to the herd. Some tips for doing that the first time that I like to do is on early in the day where they have lots of light to understand and see where those new fences are going to be in the pasture that they're going out to. What I also like to do is I prefer the other herd not to actually be around, because then I like to take the horse out of this pen, take them up and show them the automatic water bowl, which is now their new drinking source, show them the shelter and things like that, and let them kind of get acquainted before everybody comes to say hello. So once you've given that horse some time to see where the new things are, the new fence lines, what I do is I kind of put out a wagon wheel of hay. So whether it's hay, if you don't have any square bales around for flakes, you can also use oats or things like that, but I put a big wagon wheel around with about 4 to 6 feet in between each pile, and more piles than there are horses in the herd. So if you're turning out to a herd total of 6, you want to make sure there's 7 or 8 piles of hay. And what happens, I turn the new horse out onto that wagon wheel and they start grazing. The other horses in the herd are going to quickly get wind that something is up and they're going to come storming in. But since they've been maybe on pasture or on their round bale, they're going to be really excited to have this free flowing hay in the wagon wheel. And what happens is they start to figure out their herd hierarchy automatically, while they're also distracted from the new horse coming in the herd because they have yummy treats in front of them. So what happens, it keeps them kind of a safe distance from everybody, and being there's more piles than horses, it's a great way for them to start to sort themselves out even in the first 3 or 4 minutes of them meeting each other. So you're always going to expect some level of disruption. Someone's going to squeal, someone's going to kick out. That's totally normal, but using this method has really 95% of the time allowed me to turn horses out and there's never a nick or a hide missing from a bite or a kick. Everybody seems to really settle in well because they really already know each other from 7 to 10 days of getting to know each other within the safety of fences. Some of the other things that you may want to consider if it works for you is sometimes I like to leave for a day or two the gate open to these introduction pens, because what happens then is that the horses that weren't allowed here are really excited to come in here and sniff things out while your new horse is out there exploring their new home and habitat. So that works a little bit, but you really need to use your best judgment. If you have bigger herds, more than 4 or 5 horses, horses in corners don't mix well. So if your pens are small for introduction, you maybe don't want to leave that out, but it's a tip that you can use if you have the facilities that would work. And the last note is make sure that if things aren't going your way, maybe you put them out on day 7 or day 8 and the horse is really getting the run on, or they are getting bit and things like that, and they're really being ostracized from the group. You kind of are going to know right away whether the herd is ready to intermingle or not, and don't be afraid to pull that horse back in. I've done that a number of times. Some horses I leave in for 10, 12, 15 days. I've turned them out after that, and sometimes I let them out for an hour and just get a feeling that it's not right time yet, so I bring the horses back in for another week or so, try again, and it always works out in my favor. So hopefully that gives you some tips for successfully introducing a new horse to your herd with the minimal amount of disruption to everybody in your horse family.